The Geologist is warning us that Israel can expect a major earthquake of a magnitude of 6.5 on the Richter scale in the coming years. For the first time in Israel, drilling under the bed of the Dead Sea documents 2,200,000 years of earthquakes, 220,000 years of earthquakes. This is according to Tel Aviv University. So that's 250,000 years of earthquakes that they've documented from Dead Sea exploration. We know that according to Seismo Berkeley, we've had a tremendous amount of very large earthquakes surrounding the Mediterranean. We even have Etna exploding, erupting, but we've had very bad earthquakes in Greece, and recently a very big one around the Algeria mountains. And just 2 days ago, a 4.7 again in southern Greece, around Crete. And then in Turkey, 4.2 on March 20th. And March 23rd, yesterday that is, 4.3 flanking Iraq, Iran. Kindly support my Patreon account since YouTube has again demonetized my YouTube channel. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box below. Now, as you can see here, that transform fault going from the Red Sea and going up to 1 o'clock position through Israel, through the Dead Sea, through Jerusalem, the Jordan River, and the Sea of Galilee. In the past, I have made a video concerning the Sea of Galilee. It's up there around on the top of that map. The Sea of Galilee is actually a crater lake, and the Sea of Galilee is a crater of a volcano. We know that all around the Sea of Galilee, we have thermal spas that have been there since the ancient Roman times. They really built up beautiful thermal spas, as they did in England, Bath, Leamington Spa, and other areas of Roman baths, and even in Britain, in England. But we have the whole of the area of Galilee, for example, is magma under there. That's why they have the thermal hot spring baths. This is, you can see from the aerial of Israel, you have a very evident fault line, and the Jordan River flows down that fault line. As we know, every time you have a river, it's a fault line. Now, what do the geologists here say concerning what they found from the Dead Sea explorations? The Professor Shmuel Marco of Tel Aviv University writes, this is on Eureka Alert, and I'll leave a link below for you. It's a first of its kind study conducted under the bed of the Dead Sea, revealing the devastating earthquake measuring 6.5 magnitude on the Richter scale is expected to hit, he says, our region in the coming years. Of course, he says that you can't predict an earthquake, but you can see what has been going on in the past and the periods that it took every so often having such a big earthquake. Now, the study showed that an earthquake of this magnitude occurs on the land, in the land of Israel, on an average cycle between 130 and 150 years. But there have been cases in history where the lull between one earthquake and another of this size was only a few decades long, he says. The last earthquake with a magnitude 6.5 was felt in the Dead Sea Valley in 1927, when hundreds of people were injured in Amman and Jerusalem, in Bethlehem, even in Haifa, Jaffa. And now, in the wake of findings of this study, the researchers are warning, they're giving an alert that another earthquake is very likely to occur in our lifetime in the coming years or decades. The research carried out by an international team of researchers, including Professor Shmuel Marco, head of Tel Aviv University Porter School of the Environment and Earth Sciences, and his fellow researchers, Dr. Yin Lu, postdoctorate at TAU, Tel Aviv University, that is, Professor Amos Agnon, Hebrew University, Dr. Nicholas Waldman, Haifa University, and Dr. Navad Wetzler, Israel Geological Survey, and Dr. Glenn Bias' U.S. Geological Survey. The results of the groundbreaking study published in the journal Science Advances. Now, as part of the study, the research was carried out under the auspices of International Continental Scientific Drilling Program, conducting deep drilling in lake beds all over the world with the aim of studying Earth's ancient climate and environmental changes. Now, in 2010, a rig was placed in the center of the Dead Sea and began drilling to a depth of hundreds of meters, enabling an analysis of some 220,000 years of Dead Sea geology. And according to Professor Marco, because of the Dead Sea is the lowest place on Earth, every winter the floodwaters that flow into the Dead Sea carry with them sediment which accumulate at the bottom of the lake into different layers. A dark layer of about 1 millimeter represents the winter flash flood sediment, and a lighter layer, also about 1 millimeter thick, represents the increased evaporation of water during the summer months, with every 2 layers representing a different year. As soon as earthquakes occur, the sediments swirl together with the layers that had previously settled in perfect sequence, blending into one another and resettling in a different arrangement. So using equations and computational models the researchers developed specifically for the study, they were able to understand the physics of the process to reconstruct from the geological record the history of earthquakes in Israel over time. An analysis of the record, the longest record of its kind in the world, shows that the frequency of earthquakes in the Dead Sea Valley is not fixed over time. There are periods of thousands of years with more earthquake activity and thousands of years with less. Also, the researchers found that there was a significant underestimation of the frequency of earthquakes in Israel. So if until now researchers thought the Dead Sea Rift trembled at a magnitude of 7.5 or higher on the Richter scale every 10,000 years on average, it now appears that such destructive earthquakes are much more frequent, with an average cycle ranging from 1,300 years to 1,400 years. The researchers estimate that the last earthquake of this magnitude struck the region of 1,033, that is, almost 2,000 years ago. This means that in the next few centuries we can expect another earthquake of a magnitude 7.5 or stronger. In contrast, the researchers found earthquakes of the magnitude 6.5 occur in the region every 130 to 150 years on average, but that the frequency between earthquakes varies. While there were cases in which the lapses between one earthquake and another lasted hundreds of years, there were also cases in which powerful earthquakes occurred within only a few decades of each other. Now he says, Professor Marco says, I don't want to cause alarm, but we are living in a tectonically active period. The geological record does not lie, and a major earthquake in Israel will come. Of course, he says, we have no way of predicting exactly when the earth will shake under our feet. This is a statistical projection, he says, but unfortunately I can say that an earthquake that will cause hundreds of casualties will hit in the coming years, and it could be in 10 years or in several decades, but it could also be next week, and we need to constantly be prepared for that. Let's keep in mind that Israel has a lot of ancient buildings as well. Now, for the first time this has happened, this drilling, the best evidence obtained and gathered in the world. This is by Professor Shmuel Marco of Tel Aviv University on Eureka Alert, and I'll leave links below for you. Thank you for your support.